Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask General about the nuclear cruise missile part of this budget. And I'll tell you my limited understanding and some of my concerns, which should take no more than a minute, and then offer you the remainder to answer. My understanding is that this is a $30 billion price tag for a weapon that will be carried on the aging B-52 platform. I want to know what would happen should we not pursue this strategy? What is the risk to the United States? And two, what are your thoughts on the British decision a few years back not to pursue this as a strategy because of their concern that it would produce miscalculation and unintended consequences? And it kind of departs from traditional nuclear deterrence, where each side has a good understanding of the other's capabilities and their conditions for using them. And so if you'd take the remaining 4 minutes to answer those concerns and tell us what would happen if we didn't do this and where we could apply those $30 billion if we didn't.
Thanks, sir. Just to talk about just the funding part of it right now, just for so the long-range standoff weapon that will replace our air-launched cruise missile is currently scheduled to be integrated not only on the B-52 but also on the B-2. So for us, the way we look at this is it has to do with 21st century strategic deterrence and what the nuclear aspect of that is. And we as an Air Force, we like to joke that we're responsible for 3 of the 4 legs, because if you add nuclear command and control, which we're responsible for, it's actually almost a leg in and of itself to ensure that we have assured communications. So for us, it's about how do we ensure that we have a reliable, assured, secure nuclear deterrent to be able to hold targets at risk so that we can show that we have that capacity and capability. And so there's a number of ways you do that. You do that through the bomber force. You do that through of course, the ground-based force, our Minuteman III, then transitioning to the GBSD, and we also do that with the Navy with our submarine force. And so for us, when you take a look at the long-range standoff missile, it's about being able to have the right standoff to be able to actually go in to be able to service targets that the commander-in-chief may ask us to service. And so when we look at it, we need to have both that capability, which is standoff, plus we need to have gravity capability, plus we need to have penetrating capability with gravity, which is why we're putting money into the B-61 as well. And we have to modernize the nuclear missile fields. And so that's why you see an increase of $4.3 billion in this budget to be able to modernize the nuclear. So what we would tell you is that we believe that's a critical component of the 3 legs of the triad. In terms of, risk that we would have in terms of employment, modernization of a particular weapon system does not actually indicate that you would be more susceptible to use. That's purely a commander-in-chief decision. So we would say, as the employers of the nuclear enterprise, that we don't think it increases risk. So one of the areas that we're going to need help from Congress on is that if you take a look at the nuclear enterprise, most of it was built in the 40s and 50s, and it's aging significantly. And we have some bills that are going to come due after this FYDP in the 2022 timeframe that are significant. So we're working within the department to look at all aspects of the nuclear enterprise to ensure that we're putting the best dollar forward to ensure that we have a safe, secure, reliable nuclear deterrent for the 21st century that has all 3 legs plus the command and control intact.
So you do not share the British concern or the concern of former Defense Secretary Perry about the risk of miscalculation or unintended consequences. You think this is the wisest use of that $30 billion?
Yes, sir, I do.
And if, for whatever reason, Congress were not to support that request, where would that, and still allow for that $30 billion to be used within the Air Force, where would that money go?
Sir, to be honest with you, what we would do is we would take a look first at our stewardship of the nuclear enterprise. And so the first place we would look is where do we need to place that within the nuclear enterprise as our #1 priority for our service. After that, we would look at it like we look at everything else, which is it would look at a planning choice, and we would look at the trades that we have to make between capability, capacity, and readiness. But I can assure you the first place we would look would be within the nuclear enterprise.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.